Now, I want to make one thing clear. I really hate betting ads. And this is a longer grind about Sportsbet having a crack campaign because I think it's one of the best campaigns on Australian media right now. So while I really do not like the campaign, I think the campaign actually should be banned. I think betting ads should be banned. We really need to look at this as a masterclass in advertising strategy because it hits all the right beats. Okay, so the Sportsbet ad is the one having a crack, and it shows people in all sorts of different situations having a crack at various things. So there's the guy trying to have a crack at Pilates. There's one having a crack at eating hot Indian food. There's the lady at the checkout trying to say Worcestershire sauce, someone folding laundry. It's a whole lot of people in normal circumstances having a crack at everyday life. And Sportsbet is celebrating those individuals for having a crack. Now, okay, that's all legitimate, but what's it got to do with betting? And this is the interesting part. So I want to take it through my 4 grind questions and see if we can pull apart the strategy and exactly how clever, and talk about how clever Sportsbet have been. So there's 4 questions in the grind. Question number 1 is, what's the customer transformation? And I ask this question because in all good marketing, the customer has to see themselves in your brand transforming from a before to an after. Not necessarily explicitly as that, but they need to see themselves in the after. They have to recognize the before and see the after. There has to be some transformation that you're going to provide to their life. Otherwise, they're not going to bother with your product. And a lot of people miss this absolute must do in all marketing and advertising strategy. So the customer transformation with Sportsbet is actually really interesting because, as with other betting apps, they're not promising that you're going to become richer or smarter or anything. What they're going to say to you is that you become the kind of Aussie who has a crack. Sportsbet is selling Australian identity, not wins. And that's really clever because by associating itself with Australianness, and you're having a crack as being an Australian type thing to do in a positive way, that transformation from being un-Australian to Australian is quite compelling. It's actually giving you permission to have a crack. In fact, you should have a crack. So the transformation message here is quite clear, very, very clever. Okay, question number 2 is, who's the customer cult? So what customer are they going for? And with a lot of these brands that go on television, the customer group has to be quite large, quite broad. You know, it's not quite grocery shoppers 20 to 60 anymore, although that does happen a lot, but you need to be quite broad because you're looking at a broad demographic. So what Sportsbet is looking for is probably people who are already punting, plus everyone else who kind of laughs at, oh yeah, I've had a crack at that too. I have a crack sometimes too. So it's trying to gain your involvement in their app and their gambling activities by association, by you seeing yourself in the ad, by you relating to the scenarios in the ad and looking at those people as, oh, you know, they're doing the right thing. They're having a crack. So it's a very broad market, but I'd say, you know, anyone, not necessarily from the 18s to 50s, because like the better app with the GOAT, which is a ridiculously lame campaign, Sportsbet is going for quite a wide target market. They're skewed masculine, but they do have a female in the ads every now and then. It might just be to maintain diversity, I'm not sure, but it's a very wide group. So everyone who already puts on a punt, plus everyone who laughs along with it to say, yeah, I've had a crack at that too. So it normalizes that behavior by wrapping it in everyday risk-taking. It sort of puts the two together and displays it to you as a potential customer of theirs in this permissive realm of advertising. Question number 3 in Grind is, what's the point of difference? So what's the USP? So it's very important to show that you have something different, special and desirable that's ahead of the game of your competitors. Now, most of the other betting brands scream odds, boosts, bonuses. You've seen them. There's quite a number of them that are big on what you can generate and very flashy Ladbrokes is particularly good at that in terms of boosts, bonuses now with a sense of urgency. But the genius of this Sportsbet campaign is it does none of that. What Sportsbet says is we back your bad decisions with a wink. So yeah, you can have a go, you can have a crack. It may not be a good decision, but we're going to back you with it. So again, it's cultural permission, not a product feature. And while that's an absolute worry, it's also very, very clever. Okay, so question 4, what's the archetype? Now I use Jungian archetypes in my work. So Carl Jung had 12 archetypes that he identified lived in our subconscious. You see them in movies, you see them in books. They're archetypes that we don't even need to think about. We're just drawn to them. And Sportsbet are using the Joker. So it's the cheeky mate who eggs you on while you make your bad decisions. We all know a person like that. We all have one of those in our life. And Sportsbet is going to be that for you when you decide to make your next punt. Now, Australia is primarily a nation of Joker archetypes. Like, we respond to it really well, a lot better than in other countries. So it's kind of the default archetype that a lot of ad agencies use when it's appropriate because it works. And I think Sportsbet use of the Joker archetype is actual genius, a really great move. So what we have here is a betting app that is going full on with a very, very powerful, yet looking simple, looking fun, but a very powerful campaign that looks harmless. So it's pretending to be fun, it's pretending to be harmless, but it's actually very damaging. That's why it works, and that's why it worries me. For creative, it's amazing. For ethics, it's terrible. From a craft and brand perspective, having a crack is nearly perfect. So as marketers, should we admire it? Absolutely, we should admire it. It's amazing. Should we regulate it harder? Well, I think also yes. But what do you think? This is an open forum. I'd love to hear what you think about the Sportsbet ad. Love them, loathe them, been sucked in by them, be damaged by them. They're dangerous, they're fun, they're amazing, they're terrible, they're everything. So drop your comments and I'd love to hear from you about having a crack. And my next long form video will be up very soon, so subscribe.